Good evening and welcome, Freedomizers. This is Theatra with Freedom Reigns, and today we have with us Miss Teri Hinkle and Anita, our newest member of our team, and we are waiting for Drake to call in. He is not with us as of yet, but we kind of thought we would take a little bit of a different turn on things today, and instead of just bringing forth the happenings of recent, we've decided that we want to kind of take a look at the original birth of our nation, followed by the death of our nation via the 14th Amendment, and lead into the resurrection of our nation that has been and is being created by we the people. I feel that this is very fitting, being it is Easter Sunday and all. And so anyways, I'm going to go ahead and bring Teri in. And Teri, I'm going to let you kick off the beginning of this. Just got to kind of bear with me here. It's kind of sticking a little bit. There you are, Teri.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, and you have Anita with you. So
yes, I do. She's three-wayed on my line. So if a train goes by or a siren and the Labradors next door start to sing, I will have to mute us out. But other than that, we're here. And good evening, everyone. And I hope you're all having a happy Easter, surrounded by love and family. It's absolutely gorgeous Sunday here, and it's been a beautiful day with the grandkids and the Easter Bunny. Today's show begins with the birth of our nation. We all know our nation was born through war and sacrifice. We know 1776 was a different time, a much harder time in terms of daily life. Most of us find it hard to relate to the men and women of 1776 America. They seem to be fictional characters in a somewhat romanticized story of how a handful of colonies of the British Empire rose up and defied a king. We don't really relate to those people on a personal level because we don't really understand their lives, who they were, how they experienced life on a daily basis. Today, we're indoctrinated to an electronic squawk box, which is supposed to bring forth the news of the day, or a newspaper, which we think does the same. We fill our pantries, refrigerators, and cupboards with food purchased at a grocery store, and we prepare it with electric stoves, microwave ovens, crock pots. The only time we prepare food outdoors is with the use of a grill for that purpose, and we buy the coals to put in it, also from the store. If we eat fish, chances are it comes to us cleaned and boned and frozen. If we eat fresh vegetables, chances are they come in a can or also frozen. We have no idea what it is like to have to hunt and fish or grow that which sustains us. But are we really any different from our great ancestors who forged this nation? It's true they provided the necessities of life in much more difficult ways, but the necessities of 1776 were pretty much the same as they are for us today. Housing, food, medical care, transportation, and defense. They built or bought their homes from others who did the work. They hunted, fished, grew gardens. They relied on what medical attention was available, and much more heavily on natural remedies they had than we do today. They had horses, carriages, donkeys, mules, oxen, and wagon. They had militia for group defense and muskets for personal defense. We do all those things with different tools and different sources. Where they spent most of the day providing the necessities with their bare hands, we spend most of our days working for money to pay for the same necessities which are created by someone else. But the purpose and the goal is the same: to survive, to prosper, and to pursue our happiness. It's easy to think the people of that time didn't deal with the same issues we do today, But I assure you they did. We have a corrupt media that twists the news to fit the government agenda. They had a king who put a fine in the form of a tax on those who would print and disseminate the news of the day, the Stamp Act. We have a nationwide protest group which grew out of an out-of-control government seeking to control every aspect of our daily lives, the Tea Party. They had a king doing the same thing, so they had a real tea party and dumped the king's tea in Boston Harbor to make their point. They had to contend with the same types of public gossip we get streamed to us in the form of television. They just got theirs in more direct ways. In fact, it was quite the topic of conversation in April of 1776 that the Duchess of Kingston was found guilty of bigamy. While we chat on phones, Skype, social media sites, text on our cells, and read that inquiring minds want to know on the cover of a trash rag in the grocery line, they did the same over clotheslines, in bathhouses, gentlemen's clubs, sewing circles, at church, and in flyers and pamphlets. Yes, life in America in 1776 was without a doubt different than 2012. But the issues of the day in April of 1776 were almost identical to those of this day, April 8th, 2012. There's a wonderful website which chronicles the history of how this nation came to be, and I've given that link to Deatra to put in the chat site. But there's far too much historical fact there to share today, so I'll go over some of the events which took place in 1776. In January of 1776, the Assembly of New Hampshire adopted the first American state constitution. On January 9th of 1776, Thomas Paine's Common Sense was published in Philadelphia. On March 4th through the 17th, in 1776, American forces captured Dorchester Heights, which overlooks Boston Harbor. They captured the British artillery from Fort Ticonderoga. It's placed on the heights to enforce the siege against the British in Boston. The British evacuated Boston and set sail for Halifax. George Washington then rushed to New York to set up defenses, anticipating the British plan to invade New York City. On April 6, 1776, the Continental Congress declares colonial shipping ports open to all traffic except the British. The Congress had already authorized privateer raids on British ships and also advised disarming all Americans loyal to England. Notice that even before the Declaration of Independence, we had a Congress, a Continental Congress. April 12th, 1776, the North Carolina Assembly is the first to empower its delegates in the Continental Congress to vote for independence from Britain. May 2nd, 1776, the American revolutionaries get much-needed foreign support they'd been hoping for. King Louis XIV of France commits $1 million in arms and munitions. Spain then also promises support. May 10th, 1776, the Continental Congress authorizes each of the 13 colonies to form local, provincial governments. June 28th, 1776, in South Carolina, American forces at Fort Moultrie successfully defend Charleston against a British naval attack and inflict heavy damage on the fleet. June and July of 1776, a massive British war fleet arrives in New York Harbor, consisting of 30 battleships with 1,200 cannon, 30,000 soldiers, 10,000 sailors, and 300 supply ships under the command of General William Howe and his brother, Admiral Lord Richard Howe. June and July 1776. On June 7th, Richard Henry Lee, a Virginia delegate to the Continental Congress, presents a formal resolution calling for America to declare its independence from Britain. Congress decides to postpone its decision on this until July. On June 11th, Congress appoints a committee to draft a Declaration of Independence. Committee members are Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, Roger Livingston, Roger Sherman. Jefferson is chosen by the committee to prepare the first draft of the Declaration, which he completes in one day. Just 17 days later, June 28th, Jefferson's Declaration of Independence is ready and is presented to the Congress, with changes made by Adams and Franklin. On July 2nd, 12 of the 13 colonial delegations, New York abstained, vote in support of Lee's resolution for independence. On July 4th, the Congress formally endorses Jefferson's declaration, with copies to be sent to all of the colonies. The actual signing of the document occurs on August 2nd, as most of the 55 members of Congress place their names on the parchment copy. July 12, 1776, as a show of force, 2 British frigates sail up the Hudson River, blasting their guns. Peace feelers are then extended to the Americans. At the request of the British, General Washington meets with House representatives in New York and listens to vague offers of clemency for the American rebels. Washington politely declines, then leaves. By December 11, 1776, Washington takes his troops across the Delaware River into Pennsylvania. The next day, over concerns of a possible British attack, the Continental Congress abandons Philadelphia for Baltimore. Among Washington's troops is Thomas Paine, author of Common Sense, who now writes, "These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of his country. But he that stands it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph." October 17, 1777. General Burgoyne and his entire army of 5,700 men surrender to the Americans, led by General Gates. The British are then marched to Boston, placed on ships, and sent back to England after swearing not to serve again in the war against America. News of the American victory at Saratoga soon travels to Europe and boosts support of the American cause. In Paris, the victory is celebrated as if it had been a French victory. Ben Franklin is received by the French royal court. France then recognizes the independence of America. November 15, 1777. Congress adopts the Articles of Confederation as the government of the new United States of America, pending ratification by the individual states. Under the Articles, Congress is the sole authority of the new national government. This was not intended to be a national government in the sense we know it today. This was a fledgling nation and its first move toward creating a small body of governance to deal with the issues the individual free nation states, meaning the 13 original states, had to contend with by collective effort. And among those issues were the need for defense from all outside enemies and commerce with other nations. Even after the Revolutionary War, there were those individuals who still sided with the King of England, and many founders who were convinced that the 13 states should relinquish their individual sovereignty to a central government. But that is not the principle this country was to be founded upon. In the end, we ended up with a constitutional republic, with a constitution and Bill of Rights, written solely to declare the limits and prohibitions for and on